Rape victims are being asked to sign consent forms giving police access to their mobile phones and all the personal data they contain. Follows a series of cases where rape charges were dropped after critical evidence emerged once the trial had started. Well, joining us from central London, Lisa Longstaff, a spokesperson for Women Against Rape. Lisa, welcome to you.
Hi, thanks.
What do you say to those people who would argue, I suppose, that if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear?
Well, who doesn't have something to hide? I think there'd be very few people, including the Commissioner of the Met, who would be able to say that. I think it's a real throwback to a previous time where victims of rape are basically just treated as suspects, and all our private information, not only mobile phones and internet records, but also our school records, medical history, all of those things are being used to close cases and are sending women away, where even serious serial rapists and psychopaths like John Warboys and Levi Belfield have been let off the hook largely and are not being treated as the serious criminals that they should be.
What do you say to the senior police officer who told us in the last hour that this is merely standardising what is de facto happening already? In other words, if a defence lawyer goes to court and says, we have reason to believe that my client may be exonerated by text exchanges on the alleged victim's mobile phone, I demand access to them, the judge will allow them that access.
It is already happening, and we have made a number of complaints about it happening where we thought it was really unfair. And, you know, the other thing that your viewers really need to know is this is in a context of a history where women's organisations and victims of rape together have had to fight tooth and nail to get rape and domestic violence and rape of children taken seriously by the criminal justice authorities. And this is really a throwback to another time where instead of that, it's us who become the suspects. It's our history and our sexual history, whether we were abused as children, whether we, you know, revealed something sexual on our phone to somebody. These things are not relevant in rape trials and they shouldn't be allowed. And it's not true, the way the authorities are presenting this, that it'll only be relevant information that's disclosed. The police have a duty to disclose information that they find, whether it supports the prosecution or whether it supports the defence. And I think it's really bad that the information that's being put out about this at the moment is just very misleading. You know, you've already had cases where victims have had to sue the police because they did such an appalling investigation that their human rights were breached. You've had the Metropolitan Police saying they won't automatically believe victims. You've had, you know, case after case where the CPS has closed cases or messed them up in court. The papers aren't there on time. The police are have already closed their specialist rape units, Sapphire units in London. Things are really sliding backwards, and it's a very alarming time. And it's the women who are the most vulnerable who are going to suffer most. For example, anyone who's had a criminal record, any sex worker, anyone who's ever taken drugs, has ever had a mental health problem, even as mild as depression, ever been in trouble at school. These are all things that are being thrown at women to close cases or ending up in court to discredit the victim's character. And it's really got to stop. It's outrageous.
Do you acknowledge there are circumstances in which the disclosure can be relevant? I mean, the most obvious cause célèbre really is the case of Liam Allen, who would have gone to prison, we presume, were it not for the fact that text messages sent to him from his alleged victim, which showed she had consistently requested casual sex, exonerated him. That surely is a case where the disclosure of text messages that may not have happened were it not demanded by his lawyer could have led to a serious miscarriage of justice.
I have no doubt that there are sometimes miscarriages of justice in rape like in every other crime. But the key thing here is that we are working with a background of women being on trial as liars, suspected as of making things up, you know, our character being blasted all over the place. And, you know, I know that they bring up these cases that, you know, where one or two people have suffered injustice, and that's wrong. But the massive injustice of, you know, only a 5 or 6% conviction rate for rape and domestic violence, which is going on day in and day out, the terrorism that women are suffering of having, you know, being raped, beaten, etc., and not be able to get the criminal justice system to protect us. And the poorer you are, the worse this is. If you have an insecure immigration status, if you don't have the money to pay, to get advice or help. All the services have been massively cut back for women by the austerity cuts of this government. Loads of women are now on insecure benefits, universal credit. The system is really, really in a bad way, and it's basically giving a green light to any men who want to be violent to women or children. It's a very, very dangerous situation.
Lisa Longstaff, thank you.